Thais Hunter is both a striving educator and aspiring author who's with us here today. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, Toby. How are you doing?
I'm doing great today. Now, you've got a new book out at the moment called The Day We Didn't Go Back to School. What's the kind of basic idea about that?
Yes, this story is about one girl's journey at the start of the pandemic and just the emotional toll it's taken on her and not being able to go to school. And then also just the lessons she learns about managing the difficulties and the uncertainties of the pandemic and how we will get through everything together.
Yeah, it was quite a shock last year because I guess when the schools were shut, a lot of pupils didn't really have the chance to say goodbye to their friends. It was all done very quickly.
Yes, it was literally just within moments.
Yeah,
School was closed for 1 week, 2 weeks, and then school was closed indefinitely. So a lot of
yeah.
uncertainty and fear about when school was going to be able to reopen and, when children were going to be able to see their friends again.
Yeah, and learning itself has been really hard with schools being shut. A lot of it has been done online, and exams have been cancelled as well. It's just a nightmare for the social and educational aspect.
Yes. And although a lot of talk has been around the learning loss that students have experienced or they believe students to have experienced this year,
Yeah.
a lot of focus has yet to be on the emotional impact.
Mm.
Describing what COVID-19 is to a student who is in, as we called elementary school,
Yeah.
and just seeing having to deal with something they cannot see, and
Mm.
just having to become adults very quickly overnight.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what made you be interested in schools not going back? Do you work in education or do you have kids?
Yes. So I've been a special educator for the last 10 years,
Mm.
and I definitely, we switched to virtual learning, and I
Yeah.
could hear the sadness in our students' voices as we communicated through the computer. I just saw my students for the first time since last March, a few weeks ago, because we're
Wow.
having end of course exams in the States.
Yeah.
So it was just wonderful to see the faces of the children, and then also just to give that hope that despite everything going on, that we can still get through it together and that we will be together again.
Yeah, absolutely. So, in terms of the book itself, is it done in a way that kids can read it, or is it to be read
Yes.
to them, or is it for a kind of older audience, slightly older?
Yes, I wrote this book with the intention of it really giving a spotlight to the voices of children.
Yeah.
And what I've come to find through the reviews that adults are really finding this an enjoyable book as well. So this is
Yeah.
a family book. It definitely is a book to read together, to explore just the different feelings, the emotions of going to the grocery store and having to wear a mask and put on
Mm.
hand sanitizer. And even though many things are changing in terms of the regulations for wearing masks and things like that in public places, we know that this is something that individually people may still decide to do. So just
Yeah.
really just talking about the impact and then the lasting impact, because now for the coming school year that students will have choices of whether to return in person or continue with virtual learning.
Yeah, and I think the book is a great way to educate these young children about COVID because I guess a lot of them won't really understand why they're having to do all this stuff and why they're not at school. And there'll be a lot of young people that are probably used to the COVID world now because a year is such a long time if you're only 5 years old. It's a fifth of your life.
Yes, yes. And most importantly, I think it has allowed us to reconnect as people,
Yeah,
from people singing together on balconies, just having that togetherness that
yeah,
families have not been able to have in generally a long time due to work and various things going along. I just heard and I saw, even experienced myself, the reconnection of the family unit. And
yeah.
just definitely that was my inspiration for writing this book, and I plan to write many more books to come.
Yeah. And how do you feel online learning is for children? Has it made things worse? Because I think a lot of people have mentioned that, it's not the same as being in person. Do you feel like it's kind of made people further behind in terms of the learning, or is it still kind of okay?
Yes, well, I think it's really all preference. I've
Yeah.
had some students who in person was not for them because they had a lot of different social aspects they were dealing
Mm.
with, whether it was bullying, fitting
Yeah.
in, being a teenager, or, just fitting in with their peers. And then I have other students who they miss that one-on-one
Yeah.
interaction, being able to, enjoy lunchtime, the most
Yeah.
favorite time of the day, or even recess.
Mm.
And so it's been 50-50. Some have been responsive. For me, it's allowed me to become more creative
Yeah.
in the way I interact with my students, because for the last, I guess, 9 years, I was used to teaching one way. And
Mm.
this pushed me and elevated me to become more creative in the way I interacted with my students. And I found that even though I said today it was a wonky year, I said we made it nonetheless.
Yeah.
And I just think it's really preference. And I think it's, up for, families to determine what's best for their children.
Yeah, and I suppose a benefit of it is that you can roll out of bed at 5 to 9 in the morning and get ready. But then at the same time, you won't be fully
Yes.
awake yet, so it's maybe better
Yes.
to wake up really early and walk to school, and then you're probably awake by the time class starts.
Yes. And I really think this has pushed us as educators,
Yeah.
also, on the uh, national level, to really rethink education as a whole.
Mm.
We have to be open to new things. We've been
Yeah.
doing things the same way for, dare I say, hundreds of years, with the teacher in front of the classroom and
Yeah.
students at their desks. And this literally forced us to try something new. And I think this has allowed, at least shedding, I always like to be hopeful and look for the best in things. This has allowed us to sharpen our toolboxes and
Mm.
learn some new things that can connect us to the students, because we know that our students now are more social online
Yeah.
than they generally are with each other, per se, in terms of the way they communicate outside of a traditional classroom. And
Mm.
so it's allowed us to connect with students that way. I mean, I've learned so many different things. I didn't even know about TikTok and things like that
Oh, yeah.
before COVID-19. So, it's really just enhanced my toolbox so that I'm better able to connect with my students.
Yeah, you get to see into their lives and see into their homes in a way that you don't normally get to do.
Yes.
And I think disadvantaged pupils, has it affected them in a bad way? Because they might not have the best
Mm,
technology or childcare even. Their parents might
yes.
not be able to do homeschooling, whereas, richer pupils can find it a lot easier.
Yes, definitely. As a teacher who has been an urban educator,
Mm.
primarily for my career, I did experience that students who were now responsible
Yeah.
for their siblings because their parents are essential employees.
Mm.
The ones that made sure we kept our grocery stores open and things of that nature that we needed to be able to survive during the shutdown.
Yeah.
But I've also seen students who become breadwinners for their families. Many
Mm.
students have gone and acquired jobs. They're working now, helping to support their families, because some jobs that were there are no longer there. Many businesses have closed, and
Yeah.
so it really is going to be a community effort to ensure that our students continue to receive the education that they need and that they deserve.
Yeah. And throughout the lockdown, have you found that you've had more time to be able to write this book? Is that partly why you wanted to write a book in the first place?
Yes, well, I'd always been a writer.
Yeah.
Ever since my beginning days in school. And so it just really touched my heart And yes, I did find that I had more time. I was able to. I had to think about something else.
Yeah.
I had to fill my mind with other things to do other than watching the news
Yeah.
and just the numbers always on the screen and things of
Yeah.
that nature. And so, yes, I will say that this did provide more time for me to be creative. And we always tell our students, oh, if you can do anything you put your mind to. And
Yeah.
so I wanted to show them. I talked about the process. I had an idea for a book, and then for them to actually see the book, they're like, oh my goodness. I said, yes, anything you put your mind to, you
Yeah.
can achieve.
Absolutely. Well, if we're interested in checking out the book, where are we able to find it?
Yes, anywhere that you have Amazon, you are able to purchase it. It is on Amazon and also on my website, which is digitalizedlearningeveryday.com. You may also find me on Instagram, known as the Conscious Educator.
Ooh.
And I just hope that this book will continue to give the message of hope and that we will get through this together.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you very much for coming on the show today. It's been great to have you on.
Thank you so much for having me. And I wish you and your listeners much health, wealth, and prosperity in the days to come. And anything you put your mind to, you can achieve.